Good morning and welcome to Brooklyn. Marty Markowitz is in the house. Marty. Thank you all for joining us this morning. Besides Marty Markowitz, we have our esteemed former governor of the state of New York, Mario Cuomo. Mario, where are you? Thank you for joining us. We have our state comptroller, Tom DiNapoli. Tom, thank you. New York State Majority Coalition Leader Dean Skilos. Dean, thank you. We also have from the Port Authority, Pat Foy, and the Manhattan Borough President and City Comptroller-elect Scott Stringer. Scott, thank you. And I mentioned Marty Markowitz. No, wait, I don't finish. And Borough President of Staten Island, James Molinaro, is also here. And we just want to thank both of you for your tremendous service to our city and to your borough. So good luck in the next phase. Also, Borough President-elect Gail Brewer is here. District Attorneys Cy Vance, Dick Brown, and Dan Donovan. Thank you all for coming. And from the City Council, we have Mark Weprin and Ruben Wills. Thank you. I think this is a bittersweet day for all of us. And there are so many people in this room who, over the last 12 years, have dedicated themselves to our city and to the mayor and helping fulfill his vision. And I just want to recognize and have stand up all the former and present members of the Bloomberg administration, including deputy mayors, commissioners, and staff who are here. Please stand up. Come on. Go ahead. Mr. Mayor, Abney has been honored to work closely with you and your team since 2001. I will never forget the meeting we had right after you were elected, while the ashes of the World Trade Center still smoldered, to discuss the future of Lower Manhattan and our great city. There were many people who were uncertain about the city's future. But you, Mr. Mayor, were not. Immediately, your leadership and vision provided hope to all New Yorkers and to the people around the world that New York would rebuild, recover, and grow stronger than ever. Over the last 12 years, New York City has not only reinvented itself under your leadership. Our economy has diversified, our tax base has grown, our streets are cleaner and safer than ever before, our children are better prepared for colleges and careers. We are the role model for a 21st century urban center around the globe. During your tenure, you and your team have chosen to speak at Abney at several key moments about the critical issues facing our city, including the revitalization of Lower Manhattan, the state of public education, the need to make critical infrastructure investments, the 5-borough economic strategy, marriage equality, poverty, illegal handguns, the growth of the tech sector, and much, much more. You've always fought for the greater good of all New Yorkers and advanced for us in Washington so many ideas and issues, and also in Albany, from the innovative programs in public health and public safety, to livable cities and immigration, poverty programs, and so many other issues that are so important for the future of our city. You have made our great metropolis the city where everyone wants to come, live, work, and visit. The past 12 years have brought challenges and triumphs, and through it all, you have led our city with dedication, passion, conviction, and vision. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Mayor Michael Bloomberg for his 8th and final address as the mayor of the city of New York. Good luck. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Ready? Thank you. It's enough. Thank you. Thank you. Please sit. Let me start out by correcting one thing that Mr. Rudin, one mistake he made. The truth of the matter is all the things that he listed were done by those people who stood up and all of the other 290,000 city employees. And that is really true. I was just lucky enough to be here and to be able to work with them at a turning point in our city. But they're the ones that have made the city what it is, and most of the workforce of the city will continue on into the next administration, and I couldn't be more optimistic about this city going forward. Let me start by obviously saying thank you, and thanks to Bill for that kind introduction and all of his great work here at ABNY. Bill's father, Lou, who I had the privilege of knowing, created ABNY as a sort of kitchen table for civic-minded New Yorkers. And for 41 years, it has been bringing people together, always over food, to talk about life in our city and the challenges that we face. And the first time that I spoke at ABNY was nearly 12 years ago in February of 2002. That time we gathered just a few blocks from the World Trade Center site to discuss the challenges ahead. And later that year at another ABNY breakfast, I laid our vision for rebuilding Lower Manhattan. That vision of a neighborhood full of new residents, businesses, parks and schools, arts and culture has come to life in, I think it's fair to say, spectacular fashion. Today, the downtown community has more residents and businesses than it did on September 10th, 2001, and conventional wisdom certainly did not predict that. The rebirth of Lower Manhattan, I think, is emblematic of the work that we've done to bring life and new jobs to neighborhoods all across the 5 boroughs. And I think it's fair to say nowhere are the results more visible than right here in Brooklyn. Over the past 12 years, Brooklyn has become the quintessential urban success story. Not only is Brooklyn dramatically safer than it was, but almost 40% of all the jobs that we've created since 2001 have been created here in Brooklyn. And the investments that we've made to revitalize the waterfront and promote arts and culture have helped turn Brooklyn into an international symbol of urban vitality. Now, a lot of people deserve credit for Brooklyn's incredible renaissance, but there's one person in particular who I would be at fault if I did not mention. He is here with us this morning, and I think we should give a big round of applause. Mr. Brooklyn himself, Marty Markowitz. And there's somebody else here whose guidance I have sought out and received with much appreciation, former Mayor David Dinkins. David, thank you for everything. It's been a privilege to serve with Marty over these past 12 years, but Marty, don't getting all verklempt on me. We still have 27 days to go and a lot of work to do. So today, rather than looking back, I thought I would look forward. And not just over the next 27 days, but really over the next 27 years and beyond. Now, there is an event happening sometime over the next 27 days that, for me, puts the next 27 years in perspective. My daughter, Georgina, is going to welcome the latest member of the Bloomberg family into the world.
It will be my first grandchild, a baby boy, and I am fully competent to change diapers, if anybody wants to know. As a matter of fact, George won't like me for saying this, but I changed her diapers. So Georgina is going to make a wonderful mother, and I'm looking forward to holding the baby in my arms and looking into his eyes and saying to him, "This is your generation's city now. It's the greatest city in the world. Don't screw it up." Every day, some 337 babies are born across the 5 boroughs, and that's about 1 every 4 minutes. The future belongs to all of them, and I've never been more optimistic than I am today about the city that they will grow up in. Today, crime is at record lows, with murder down 49% since 2001. Private sector jobs are at record highs, nearly 4 million of them. Our welfare rolls are at near record lows, 25% lower than they were back in 2001. Our air is cleaner than it's been in more than 50 years, with pollution 23% lower than before we launched our sustainability plan in 2007. Our parks are bigger than ever. More than 800 new acres have been added since '01. Our schools are better than ever. High school graduation rates have gone up 42%, and dropout rates have been cut by 52%. Our city is more diverse than ever, with an all-time high population. In fact, for the first time in more than 60 years, more people are moving into the city than are moving out. And as a result of all this, our neighborhoods are stronger than ever. Of course, nothing is perfect, far from it. We still face great challenges, and we always will, but I think it's fair to say that we have never been better positioned to meet those challenges. The children being born into our city today are arriving at a high point in our history, but I don't think it's at the peak. I don't believe the peak is even in sight, and that's the way it must always be. There are no limits to the heights that we can climb as a city, and there is no cap on the progress we can make, no boundaries that can hold us in unless we ignore the critical and constant risk facing our city. And that risk is not some external threat that can set us back, whether it's climate change or terrorism. Both are deadly serious issues that we must continue to address head on. But the biggest risk we face, I think, is a quieter kind of threat, one that sometimes is harder to recognize and convenient to ignore. It is the risk of staying true to the values that make our city great, the values that make New York, New York. These are not Democratic values or Republican values. They are not liberal or conservative values. They are the values that have defined our city's history and that must always guide our future. Our administration has worked to honor and extend those values every day for nearly 12 years now, and that, more than anything else, I think is the legacy I'm most proud of. It is the greatest legacy that I can leave for my children and grandchildren. So you might be wondering, what are these New York City values? Well, I think we all have a sense of them. We feel them in our hearts. We usually don't talk about them, but we should, because they bring us together as a city. They inspire us to do right, and even when it's unpopular or politically difficult, they guide us. So this morning, I would like to touch briefly on what I see as the core values that have guided our city's history, and which I hope will forever guide our future. First, New York must always strive to be the most open city in the world. The lady who stands in our harbor, holding aloft the lamp of liberty, is more than a symbol of American freedom. She is our city's patron saint. And the words she cries, given to us by Emma Lazarus, form a city's sacred prayer. Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse of your teeming shore. Send these, the homeless, tempest-tossed, to me. I lift my lamp beside the golden door. Now those words, I think, must always be etched in our hearts, and that lamp of liberty must always light our way forward. From our earliest days, we have been a city that welcomes people of all countries and creeds, all races and religions, all outlooks and orientations. Today, when people are sick or hurting and ask for assistance, we don't ask them for their immigration papers, we help them. When two people love each other and want to commit their lives to one another, we don't stand in the way because of their gender. We issue them a marriage license. When a faith community wants to build a house in a particular neighborhood, we don't tell them to look someplace else. We stand up for their religious freedom. We are one city, open to all, with equal rights for all. That has been our past, and it must always be our future. Our city, founded on freedom, was built on opportunity, the opportunity to find work and build a better life. That opportunity and the chance to be rewarded for hard work is a second core value of our city. Generations have come to New York with barely a penny in their pockets, but with their hearts full of hope and their hands ready to work. All of them have made our city better, and they're still coming, I'm glad to say, from every corner of the world. We must always be a city that offers opportunity to those who have hope, even if, especially if, they speak limited English or have a limited education or have limited resumes. Some communities in the suburbs try to wall those people out. We welcome them in because they hold in their hearts the great American dream. At the same time, we must always be a city that offers opportunity to those with the greatest skills and the most audacious ideas, so that New York is always a city of innovation, a third core value. This is where Robert Fulton built the first commercially viable steamship, which transformed the global economy. Fulton's Folly, they called it. It's where Samuel Morse developed the telegraph that revolutionized the communications industry. It's where an immigrant named Charles Pfizer opened a drugstore that spawned a massive pharmaceutical industry that has saved countless lives. It is where Alexander Graham Bell opened Bell Laboratories, which reshaped the way we live. And it's where so many young tech entrepreneurs are now turning the latest wave of improbable ideas into reality. Albert Einstein reputedly once said, "If at first an idea is not absurd, there is no hope for it." We must always be a city where absurdity is a virtue. And that's why we launched the Applied Science Competition several years ago. We cannot begin to imagine the technologies that will define our lives 25 years from now, but we can begin to make sure that those ideas are developed here, and that's what we've done. The Applied Sciences Initiative has attracted world-class universities to our city: Cornell, the Technion Israel Institute of Technology, Carnegie Mellon, the University of Toronto, and many others. And together with the applied science initiatives launched by NYU, Columbia, and CUNY, we will double the number of engineering students and faculty members in our city, and hundreds of new companies and thousands of new jobs will be created. Just as we value creativity and daring among entrepreneurs and technologists, we also value it among artists. And artistic expression is another core value of New York. This is where generations of artists have found inspiration, from Walt Whitman to Andy Warhol to Ai Weiwei. This is where Irving Berlin and George Gershwin rewrote the American songbook. It's where bebop became a jazz sensation. It's where the Beat generation was born, where the folk revival started blowing in the wind, where salsa, disco, hip-hop, and punk all came to life. It's where Miller and Mailer, Hopper and Haring, de Kooning and de Souvreau all found inspiration. And it's where Christo and Jean-Claude staged perhaps the most successful public art installation in history. For 12 years, we have worked to promote and strengthen arts and culture in our city. Not only does it feed our spirit, it feeds our economy. And because the arts are a magnet for talent and tourists from all over the world, we remain an economic capital of the world. And economic capital is what really is defined by culture, attracting poets, painters, performers, and artists of every kind. Personal freedom, economic opportunity, technological innovation, artistic expression. For centuries, these four values have defined our city, and for 12 years, they have guided our administration. But they are not alone. A fifth core value is no less important. We invest in the future. Our predecessors in city government built Central Park when much of Manhattan was farmland and forest. They built subway lines to neighborhoods that didn't yet exist. And they built water tunnels with enough capacity for the city to grow for generations. Then in the 60s and 70s, city government stopped investing in its future. One of our core values was abandoned, and we paid a terrible price for it. Over the past 12 years, we've invested in the future, a non-negotiable priority. We've nearly ready to open a new subway extension, the first subway extension funded by the city in more than 50 years. We've also recreated entirely new public transit systems, the East River Ferry and City Bike, and new taxis. We brought taxi service to areas outside of Manhattan, something the city has been trying to do since the Lindsay administration. We've created more than 800 acres of new parkland, much of it by reclaiming the neglected areas of our waterfront. We've built and preserved enough affordable housing to house the entire city of Atlanta, and then some. We've improved our air and water quality, while also making our city more resilient to climate change. And when I think about the city my grandson will come to know as an adult, I think of all the projects that are still years or even decades away from competition. The third water tunnel has more to go. Hudson Yards, Willets Point, the Applied Science Campus on Roosevelt Island, Governor's Island, the Kingsbridge Armory, Brooklyn Bridge Park, Fresh Kills Park, the Staten Island Wheel, Hunters Point South, the storm surge barriers proposed by our special initiative Rebuilding and Resiliency, and the list goes on and on. Now, I won't be around to cut final ribbons on those projects, and that's fine with me. What matters to me is knowing that those projects will benefit our children and grandchildren for decades to come. Investing in the future also means improving our public school system, something the city had also stopped doing. When our administration began, high school graduation rates had been stuck at 50% for 20 years. Think about that, 20 years and no improvement. It was inexcusably wrong. When city government can't see beyond the special interests or beyond the next election, children suffer. But when city government looks ahead and invests in policies and programs that put students first, children succeed. And we've certainly seen that over the past 12 years. Today, not only are high school graduation rates more than 40% higher, but so are college readiness rates. And now, 22 of the state's top 25 elementary and middle schools are in the 5 boroughs. Back in 2001, we didn't have a single school in the top 25 statewide. We've also invested $25 billion to build and modernize school facilities, which has helped us add 126,000 more classroom seats and give parents and students more top-quality school options. When it comes to education, infrastructure, and so much else, the children of our city and the children yet to be born must continue to be the most influential voices in the halls of our government. We've done our very best to act as their guardians and to protect them from those who would stand in front of them or mortgage their future. And as a result, I think it's fair to say that their future has never been brighter. There are 2 more core values that have always defined New York City at its best. The first is our compassion. It was a New Yorker in the White House, Franklin Roosevelt, who developed the nation's first social safety net, and he created it out of the threads first stitched together by 2 of our city's great leaders, Governor Al Smith and Senator Robert F. Wagner. Today, there is no city in America with a stronger social safety net than New York, and there is no city that has done more to fight poverty than we have. And that's one reason why New York has been the only major city in the nation not to experience an increase in poverty since the 2000 census. The average city saw a 36% increase in poverty. New York saw no increase in poverty whatsoever. Of course, flat is not good enough, but by bucking the trend, we've helped keep thousands of families out of poverty. One way we've fought poverty has been through our Young Men's Initiative, which is the most comprehensive effort any city has made to help those who are most at risk of getting off track, Black and Latino young men. And the work that we've done to reform juvenile justice policies is helping to give thousands of our kids a fair shot at staying in school and staying out of trouble. All of these programs and many more are in keeping with the best traditions of New York City as a laboratory for compassionate and innovative social policy. Finally, and just as importantly, New York City is at its best when its values has the courage to defend them, and that is public health and safety. In the 19th century, New York was the first major city to create a board of health to battle disease. And in the earliest 20th century, we became the first major city to create a public health laboratory. Our administration has upheld that tradition and extended it into the 21st century. From banning smoking and trans fats to adopting calorie counts and battling obesity, no city in the world has done more to improve public health than we have. And the proof is in the fact that today, New Yorkers are living longer and healthier lives. In fact, since 2001, life expectancy in our city has increased by nearly 3 years, far outpacing the national average. Now, one reason for those gains has been our commitment to reducing violent crime and fighting illegal guns. No city in the country has done more to crack down on illegal guns than we have, and one result is that murder has declined much more steeply than anywhere else in the country. In the country as a whole, murder declined by 15% from 2001 to 2012. In New York City, it declined by 38%. And this year, we're on pace to shatter the record for the fewest number of murders in the city's modern history. Not only are we outpacing the nation in reducing crime, we're also outpacing the nation in reducing incarceration. Across the U.S., incarceration levels have increased by 5% since 2001. Here in our city, they have decreased by 32%, which means thousands more people are staying out of jail and in their communities. When I took office, not even my supporters thought we would be able to improve on Mayor Giuliani's impressive crime-fighting record. Let me tell you what the New York Post editorial board had to say after I was elected. Quote, "Will New York remain one of the safest, largest cities in the country? We're not optimistic," unquote. Well, I was optimistic then, and I remain optimistic now. Every mayor's goal is to leave the city safer and stronger than he or she finds it. And I certainly hope that the next administration and everyone following it achieves that same goal. And they're going to need your support to do it, and the support of our 290,000 employees. Now, the good news is that our city's workforce is better than ever. Our employee retention rate would be the envy of any private sector firm. Simply put, New York City government is a great place to work. Our recruitment ability has never been better. Job applications in almost every city agency are at record levels. And the quality of services delivered to our citizens in virtually every area has become known across the country and around the world. And our workforce is also competitively compensated with future raises to keep up with inflation already funded in our balanced budget proposed for the next 18 months. Now, the values I've mentioned this morning are, I believe, values that run deep in our DNA as New Yorkers. At our best, we are a city that is defined by freedom, diversity, and equality. We are a city that ensures opportunity for all. We are a city that champions economic innovation and artistic expression. We are a city that invests in the future, that adopts compassionate and effective social policies, and that protects the health and safety of all New Yorkers in all communities. That is the New York that I know and love. That is the New York you know and love. And it's the New York we have worked together to build for the past 12 years. In the decades ahead, mayors will come and mayors will go. There will be ups and downs, triumphs and tragedies. But if we always remember our values, if we honor them and work to live up to them and defend them against attack, if we all pull together and stand up for one another, we will remain what we are today, the greatest city in the world. That is my heartfelt hope, that is my wish for the future, and that is what I want more than anything else for my little grandson and all the generations to come. Thank you. God bless our great city.
All right, he's had enough. Mr. Mayor, thank you for your vision and your leadership. And just as a little token of all of our appreciation, a little Big Apple memento, which I'm sure you've got 1,000 of, but this has special meaning. Thank you.